Everyone tells you the same lie. That socializing is healthy. That being surrounded by people means you're alive, connected, fulfilled. But what if the very thing you're chasing, constant conversation, endless interaction, forced connection, is the reason you feel tired, unfocused, and weak? What if socializing isn't enriching you, but slowly draining you? Stoic philosophy never glorified crowds. It warned against them. Because most people don't sharpen your mind. They dilute it. They pull you into noise, opinions, complaints, distractions, until your inner voice disappears. Notice how rarely you think deeply when you're always around others. Notice how discipline fades when you constantly adapt to fit in. Notice how clarity vanishes the moment the noise begins. The Stoics understood something modern society refuses to accept. Not all connection is healthy. Some of it is poison, served politely. This video is not about hating people. It's about understanding power. Power over your time. Your focus. Your inner state. Because the most dangerous individuals in history were not the loudest in the room. They were the quietest. Observing. Detached. Unmoved. If you feel uncomfortable hearing this, that's a good sign. It means a belief you never questioned is being exposed. Stay until the end. Because by the time this is over, you may never look at socializing the same way again. The modern obsession with socializing. Modern society has turned socializing into a virtue. If you are alone, something must be wrong with you. If you are quiet, you are labeled antisocial. If you don't constantly interact, you are seen as broken. From childhood, you are conditioned to believe that being surrounded by people equals happiness. School rewards group behavior. Workplaces glorify teamwork. Social media measures your worth by visibility, likes, and constant engagement. But none of this was designed for your inner strength. It was designed for conformity. Most social interaction today is not deep. It is repetitive, emotional, and empty. The same complaints. The same gossip. The same opinions recycled endlessly. Yet people cling to it, not because it fulfills them, but because silence exposes something uncomfortable. Their lack of direction. Stoicism teaches that the crowd is seductive but dangerous. Not because people are evil, but because they are unconscious. They act on impulse, emotion, and imitation. When you constantly socialize, you borrow other people's moods, fears, and limitations. You slowly stop thinking for yourself. You stop hearing your own thoughts. The modern obsession with socializing is not about connection. It is about avoiding solitude. And avoidance is never strength. A Stoic does not reject society. He simply refuses to be shaped by it. Before moving forward, ask yourself one question. How much of your life is truly chosen? And how much is just inherited noise? Stoic view: most people drain your energy. The Stoics were deeply aware of one truth modern culture ignores. Your energy is finite. Every conversation, every interaction, every emotional exchange has a cost. And most people take far more than they give. Not intentionally. Not maliciously. But unconsciously. People speak to release their anxiety. They complain to feel lighter. They seek validation to suit their insecurity. And when you listen, you carry part of that weight. Stoicism teaches discipline of attention. Where your attention goes, your life follows. When you surround yourself with unfocused minds, your own focus dissolves. This is why Epictetus warned against careless association. Not because solitude is superior, but because influence is invisible. You may believe you are strong enough to remain unaffected. But the Stoics knew better. Repeated exposure shapes character. The crowd pulls you toward mediocrity slowly, quietly, without resistance. Your standards soften. Your urgency fades. Your inner tension dissolves. A Stoic chooses his company the way a warrior chooses his battles. Rarely. Deliberately. With purpose. Solitude, when chosen, is not loneliness. It is protection. Protection of your energy. Your clarity. Your inner order. Ask yourself this. After most interactions, do you feel stronger? Or simply exhausted? Socializing weakens your discipline. Discipline is fragile. It doesn't collapse in dramatic moments. It erodes quietly, through small compromises. Socializing is one of its most subtle enemies. Every group has its rhythm. Its habits. Its tolerances. And to belong, you adapt, often without noticing. You stay out later than planned. You speak when silence would serve you better. You laugh at what doesn't align with you. You postpone your work, your training, your reflection. None of this feels dangerous in the moment. That is why it works. Stoicism is built on self-command. The ability to act according to principle, not impulse. But in social environments, impulse is rewarded. Discipline is mocked as rigidity. The more you socialize, the more your standards are negotiated. Your routines bend. Your edge dulls. The Stoics understood that true freedom requires structure. And structure requires distance. This is why the disciplined man often appears distant. Not because he lacks warmth. But because he refuses disorder. Every time you choose social comfort over inner order, you train yourself to obey the crowd. And obedience, even when subtle, is weakness. Ask yourself honestly. How many of your broken promises to yourself began with the words, "It's just this once"? You lose your identity around others. Identity is not lost all at once. It fades through adjustment. Every social environment demands something from you. A tone. An opinion. A reaction. And each time you comply, you move slightly away from who you truly are. Most people don't speak to express truth. They speak to be accepted. So they soften their thoughts. They hide their convictions. They edit themselves in real time. Stoicism warns against this fragmentation. A Stoic seeks inner alignment. To be the same in solitude as in public. But constant socializing makes this impossible. You become many versions of yourself, none of them whole. Notice how your posture changes around certain people. How your words become safer. How your silence becomes uncomfortable. This is not connection. It is performance. The Stoics believe that self-respect is built in solitude. Only alone can you hear your own standards. Only alone can you confront your weaknesses without distraction. When you depend on others for validation, you surrender authorship of your identity. You let the crowd decide who you are allowed to be. A Stoic does not need to be seen to exist. He does not need approval to remain intact. Ask yourself this. Who are you when no one is watching? And how often do you abandon that person to fit in? Stoic silence versus social noise. Noise is the weapon of the distracted. Silence is the tool of the disciplined. Modern life is loud by design. Endless opinions. Constant reactions. Voices competing to be heard. And in this noise, most people mistake activity for progress. The Stoics chose silence deliberately. Not as withdrawal, but as strategy. Marcus Aurelius wrote his most powerful thoughts alone, away from applause. Epictetus taught that restraint in speech was a sign of inner order. Silence protects clarity. It allows thought to mature instead of being interrupted. It prevents emotional contagion. In social settings, silence is uncomfortable. Because it reveals insecurity. It forces people to confront themselves. That is why silence is often mocked or misunderstood. It cannot be controlled. A Stoic speaks only when his words add value. Not to impress. Not to belong. not to fill space. When you reduce unnecessary speech, you reduce unnecessary error. You stop leaking energy. You regain authority over your inner state. Those who master silence are often perceived as distant. In reality, they are simply undisturbed. Ask yourself, how much of what you say is necessary? And how much is just noise trying to avoid stillness? When socializing is necessary, Stoic balance. Stoicism is not escapism. It does not teach isolation or rejection of humanity. It teaches discernment. The Stoics understood that humans are social by nature. But they also knew that unchecked exposure weakens the mind. Socializing, in the Stoic sense, must be intentional. Rare. Purpose-driven. A Stoic does not avoid people. He avoids waste. Some relationships sharpen you. They challenge your thinking. They reinforce virtue. Most do not. That is why the Stoics valued quality over quantity. One meaningful conversation outweighs 100 shallow ones. Social interaction should serve growth, duty, or wisdom. Not distraction. Not emotional dumping. Not habit. When socializing becomes automatic, it becomes dangerous. When it is chosen, it becomes useful. The Stoic enters society the way a physician enters a sick room. Calm. Prepared. Unaffected. He leaves before contamination begins. Balance is not found in constant presence. It is found in controlled exposure. Ask yourself this. Do your relationships strengthen your character? Or simply consume your time? How solitude makes you dangerous. Solitude is not weakness. It is where power is forged. When you are alone, there is no audience to impress. No energy to manage. No noise to filter. Only truth. In solitude, your thoughts stop performing and start revealing. Your weaknesses become visible. Your excuses lose their cover. This is why most people fear being alone. Not because solitude is painful, but because it is honest. The Stoics embraced solitude as training. A space to sharpen judgment. To build discipline without interference. To strengthen the will. When you spend enough time alone, something changes. You stop reacting. You stop seeking approval. You stop explaining yourself. You become grounded. A man who is comfortable in solitude cannot be manipulated. He does not fear rejection. He does not chase attention. He is not pulled by the moods of others. This is what makes him dangerous. Not aggression. Not dominance. But self-sufficiency. Solitude creates clarity. Clarity creates control. Control creates quiet confidence. The world is shaped by individuals who learn to stand alone long before they were followed. Ask yourself this. If everyone disappeared tomorrow, would you collapse? Or would you finally become focused? Conclusion plus Stoic call to action. The truth is uncomfortable, but simple. Most people are not exhausted because they do too much. They are exhausted because they allow too much. Too many voices. Too many opinions. Too many interactions that lead nowhere. Stoic philosophy does not ask you to disappear. It asks you to choose. Choose depth over noise. Choose solitude over distraction. Choose self-command over social approval. When you reduce unnecessary socializing, something powerful happens. Your thoughts slow down. Your standards rise. Your time becomes yours again. You stop reacting to the world. You start shaping yourself. This path will make you misunderstood. Some will call you distant. Others will call you cold. The Stoics accepted this price willingly. Because peace is not found in belonging. It is found in alignment. You do not need more people. You need more clarity. Step back. Observe. Strengthen your inner order. And remember this. The man who controls his inner world is never alone. Even when he walks in silence. If this message resonated, don't rush to share it. Sit with it. Apply it. Because true strength is quiet.